It's time for Center State Bank Tuesday on the Buddy Martin Show.
Yes, it's time again for Buddy Martin. Call him up and tell him what you're thinking. But be kind because he's doing the best he can.
Better, stronger, faster.
Mama says that alligators are ornery because they got all them teeth but no toothbrush.
Hey, what if the voice calls while you're gone?
Take a message.
Bye.
You ready, champ?
I'm ready for this my whole life.
I'm incapable of small talk. But that's why you love me, right?
Kind of intimidating to be in the presence of so many great athletes.
Good evening and welcome to Center State Bank Tuesday. It's the Buddy Martin Show. We're coming to you early tonight. We got Gator Hoops on, Florida State, Florida, coming up at 9 o'clock. And we've got some jam-packed interviews for you. Prior to that, you'll be hearing from, among others, our friend David Moulton from down in Southwest Florida, who also works on the college football crew for CBS. He'll be at the Alabama-Mississippi State game on Saturday. His take on who should be the quarterback. That's the question lots of people are asking today. We had talked about it some on Monday night, late night, dilly. We'll talk more about it today. Also coming up in a recorded interview, I'm going to have a little bit of a report on some of the playoff teams. I'm starting to pick up on the teams I think will be in the playoffs, and I'll have interviews with people who covered those teams over the period of 2 or 3 weeks. And tonight's is Notre Dame. Yeah, I know some of you don't like Notre Dame, but this particular man covers the team for AP, and he's a friend of mine. Used to work with me both in Southwest Florida and for us at Gator Country, John Finneran. What's going on with Notre Dame? Can you even name their quarterback? That's the thing about it. Notre Dame, a team that has always had these glamour quarterbacks, these guys that won the Heismans and stuff. And now you think about who is the quarterback? Didn't they change? Yeah, they did. Bet you can't tell me who it is without looking it up. So John Finneran will join us for a bit. And then Franz Beard's going to come aboard. The Iron Duke's got a take on things, including basketball. Tonight, we will lead up to the basketball game itself and carry over just a few minutes into the game so Franz can get his take on that, give us his information. Franz is a very knowledgeable basketball writer, in case you didn't know, and reporter. We've given him the nickname. We haven't used it, Mr. College Basketball. And we plan to use that some in the near future because he knows his stuff. So good to hear from John tonight. Lynn's always there. And Janice, nice to hear from you. Becky and Duke. We know we caught you kind of early tonight, and we understand that. And so some of you will be joining us a little later and probably watching online a little later or even tonight. We wanted to be sure we're going to follow the election results. I'm not a political animal, but by the same token, I want to see what happens because it's breaking news. See what if there are going to be any changes or whatever. And just to keep up with what goes on in the world. Not that it's going to change anything in my life. But anyway, good evening to you, Kurt. And good evening to all you folks out there as we prepare the countdown for South Carolina. Can you believe it? The 10th game of the season is coming up, and in 2 weeks, the season will be over after that. It's getting a little scary out there for some people, and the conversation is going back and forth from the quarterback, who it is, to what's wrong with the team, what's the future. A lot of people weighing in on Dan Mullen's comments on the fans. I don't know how you feel about it if you didn't hear about it. And I'm not going to go down a negative road here, but I am going to hold people accountable when they say and do things. And when Dan Mullen steps up and says what he said the other day about you have to sell the stadium out before you can win a championship. Number one, that's not right, in my opinion. It may have happened in some cases. Might have been what it was like in Mississippi State. Number two, it kind of feels like to some people, even those who like him a lot, of which I am one, that he was kind of holding a little gun to the fan's head there a little bit. Yeah, attendance is off at Florida. It's off a lot of places. Fans are leaving earlier, coming later. Alabama has had one of the great. By the way, I put a poll up today just for the heck of it on the show page about who do you think the greatest team of all time is. I didn't do it. It's not scientific. Random names like 1945 Army, 2008 Gators, 95 Nebraska. I would probably put them right there near the top. And will this Alabama team, if it finishes up winning everything, be the best team of all time? And I've heard people talk, and I would agree, there's that out there, and that could happen. So you're coming along at a time when maybe the greatest team in college football history is playing and dominating. And when Steve Spurrier ran into to Nebraska in the 96 Fiesta Bowl, season 95, it looked like the best team I'd ever seen. And I've seen a lot of football. So that's something we can talk about if you like. Give me your take on that if you like. And then also what is the proper order for the quarterbacks to play? Should you start Felipe with a short leash? Should you Kyle Trask? Does he deserve a shot? A lot of people feel like he deserves a shot. But if your quarterback's going to be Emory Jones and that's your guy, some people say, well, put him in there, let him play, never mind the red shirt. I've had several people tell me that, including a former coach. Just put him in, let him play. Never forget about the red shirt. Try to win. You can't be sure a quarterback's going to stay around ever. So I'm not sure I subscribe to that. But anyway, those are some topics of conversation tonight. We're going to get to in just a minute. Like I said, we're going to have an interview with David Moulton discussing some of those things. We're also going to chat with live with Franz Beard, and we'll talk about some basketball as well. And then we'll also have a partial interview. How many of you saw the interview I did last night with a guy named Richard Burton? Not that guy, no. Richard Burton's a very well-known high school writer, journalist, and author. Has a new book out called Seeds of Greatness about the great high school football teams in Florida and the playoffs started in the 1960s. Richard talked about Jim Haley, who is a famous coach here, won 3 state titles at Vanguard, coached for 35 years, beloved man, had a fantastic tournament called the Kingdom of the Sun, where top high school teams around America came to him, and he passed away last week. So we'll finish up the interview tonight later on with Richard as well. So right now I'm going to do this. I'm going to tell you about Center State Bank. We're going to take a little break and come back here. And David Moulton, Center State Bank, of course, is my bank, as you see right there. And it's a place that we go to for banking business. It's also a place we go to for community events. And look no further than the Ocala Quarterback Club, which has had its big meeting there early in the year with Coach Dan Mullen's wife, who did their preseason event. And they do weddings, they do all kinds of things there in that building because they want to make it available to you, the customer, because they're very much about the customer. Center State Bank believes in community and customer service. They also have world-class service. They're known for their relationship banking, the long-term horizons on all their finances, and they believe in family. They really do believe also in family and faith in terms of their way they treat people. They are the 7th largest bank in the state of Florida. I believe they might be bigger now, but at this time it was written 82 locations to serve you in 30 Florida counties, and they are available on centerstatebank.com. If you want to go on there, find the location nearest you, you can do that. And check out this beautiful building here. We love that because there's so much in the arts that they do. They have an art gallery upstairs. They have civic meetings, etc. So check that out for your special occasion. Meanwhile, if you want to know about some things in the banking world, go to centerstatebank.com. Find out if there's a bank near you like this one. This one's located Silver Springs Boulevard in Ocala. Telephone 368-6800. That's a 352 area code. Remember, Center State Bank, centered on community and customer service. Coming up in just a moment, David Moulton will join us. First, though, this from Dan Hightower.
Job-related accidents create incredible stress on your finances, your relationships, and most importantly, your sense of well-being. When the adjuster is not approving benefits you're entitled to by law, you need Dan Hightower to help you understand all of your legal options. Daniel L. Hightower has been fighting for accident victim justice in Ocala and statewide since 1976. Call Daniel L. Hightower today to better understand all your legal options. 352-629-7777.
I want to tell you about a special place. This place has been here, not this particular one because there have been several locations. Augie Griner started in 1962. This is located at 405 East Silver Springs Boulevard, downtown Ocala. Griner's for Men. It's done a great service to our community because this store has dressed men in this town for generations. And it still they still have quality clothing. They have a terrific service for you. You can go there and actually get someone to explain why you need a seersucker shirt or seersucker suit or don't next spring. You can tell them why it's okay to wear brown shoes with a great suit. You can tell them why this tie matches with that particular shirt, etc. They have great taste. That's what Grinders has always had. And they have great service. If you've not been down there, first of all, it's run by some really good people. David DeSantis, the owner, Brandon is there. If you've not been down there, you should go because you'll most likely find something there for yourself or your father or your uncle, or it's a great place, a Christmas shop, of course. And they have all kinds of great lines down there, which I buy many shirts and I bought a pair of shoes down there. The lines are superb, yet reasonable. And I encourage you to take a look at some of these pictures, some of the things they have. Very tasty. So Grinders for Men, they're very much involved in the community. They've been involved in the Ocala Gator Tip-Off Club since its inception. In fact, Augie Griner was the founder, and now David DeSantis is very involved in that. And Grinders for Men is an institution on Ocala tradition since 1962. Grinders for Men, 405 East Silver Springs Boulevard, telephone 352-629-3195. Okay, earlier in the evening, we got a hold of our friend David Moulton and talked about what was going on in Gainesville. Out to the Red Star split screen and the hotline with David Moulton. He is I consider him a college football expert. He knows a little bit about NFL, a little bit about golf, a little bit about baseball, but mainly when I think of David Moulton, I think of all the great conversations I've had with him about college football. Is that okay with you, Mr. Moulton?
Buddy, introduce me however you would like.
Well, how about, I won't call you Mr. College Football because that name was taken, but we'll just say, let's talk some ball. How about that?
Great.
I had a conversation today actually the last couple of days with some people that you would have been interested in. I can't name them all. I can tell you one was Chris Storing. There were others, coaches, writers, etc. And we all, of course, focus on what is going on in Gainesville, trying to figure this out. And on this Center State Bank Tuesday, I will present the scenario to you, and you are a thinking man's football fan and journalist. So let me ask you this question. Given the situation that is going on in Gainesville now, and by the way, while it was a meltdown, it does not mean the program's going south. I think you'll agree with that there's going to be some adjustments need to be made, and starting with the quarterback position as we saw. So before we get to that particular question about it, when you're trying to win in a program and you want to max out and become successful at going for the brass ring, you have to stop and look at the analytics about what other people are doing. Does it interest you to know, and would you consider this changing your mind about some things, if you looked at the top teams in the country and see they all have one thing in common? They've all made changes at the quarterback position. And it's been very successful, as we know, at Alabama, at Clemson, even Notre Dame, etc., Michigan, etc. Given that scenario, if you're Dan Mullen, do you rethink your quote-unquote quarterback room? We already know that, obviously, Felipe is going to be limited in his playing time or have a short leash or maybe benched. And then the next man up is Kyle Trask, and then, of course, Emory Jones. And we know Jalen Jones is a commit. But would you start thinking about, okay, Is Justin Fields available? Is Kelly Bryant someone who would fit my system? Do you start thinking in that way about how to fill the quarterback position, which is, we said on this program, David, over and over and over and over, a school with 3 Heisman Trophy winners, statues out front, hadn't been able to find a quarterback for a decade?
Well, I would not be interested in Kelly Bryant because he only has a year of eligibility left. And the Gators need to find a long-term answer at quarterback. I mean, at least a 2-year starter. You know, buddy, that I said the most important thing that needed to come out of 2018 for this program was that Dan Mullen knew who his quarterback was going to be in 2019. And so while I think the South Carolina game is important, it would be nice to finish second in the East. It would be nice to keep this 10-win season alive for as long as possible. So I can see if Dan chooses whichever quarterback he wants to get through the South Carolina game. But then I believe post a win against the Gamecocks, if they can get it, the decision needs to be made. Who is my guy in the room now that I will give the most opportunity to be my guy next year? I think we all know who that is. It's the freshman. I don't care about burning a year of his eligibility if I'm Dan. Because quite frankly, you don't know how long quarterbacks are going to stick around. So if he ends up playing the magic number of games and losing a year of eligibility, I don't really care. I don't. I take that risk right now. I need an answer, and I need as much information as possible in order to make this answer. So if he ends up playing 5 or more games, whatever. I'm not worried about that. I want to beat South Carolina, and then I want to play the freshman. That's how I would handle it. Now, the Georgia quarterback situation is fascinating because, buddy, don't assume that it's Fields who's going to become available. I mean, if you were Fromm and you're told after this year that the quarterback job is going to be a battle for next year, you may just get up and leave. You may be like, you're kidding, right? You're kidding. Seriously? Forget it. Because that would tell you the writing's on the wall. Much like we all knew once Nick acknowledged that, hey, the quarterback job is going to be up for grabs, we all said, well, Tua's going to be the starter unless, he's hurt. And I think Fromm would quickly realize, yeah, they're obviously going to find a way to choose Fields. So I probably should just get the heck out of Dodge right now. So don't assume that it's Fields who ends up a free agent, because I actually would bet that it's going to be Fromm.
Okay, well then to answer the question, if you're Mullen, do you go after Fromm?
Oh my goodness, yes. Yes. You're the best quarterback the Gators have had since Tebow. Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. Sure. If either Georgia quarterback comes available, you're darn right. You go all in trying to get him.
See, I think you're right, because as much as I've been defending the quarterback position as a position of developing, and certainly Frank's is in that department, it comes clear now that Mullen has not been able to develop Frank's, even admitting that he wasn't ready to play in his post-game press conference, which surprised me, which is basically saying, we can't do this for this guy. So now that that's been changed and the quarterback room is up for grabs, if you're going to play that game of let's get the best guy, then go get the best guy. And I'm sorry for whoever else is offended by that, but you never bothered Spurrier. He was going to get the best guy and bench anybody who wasn't. Are you there, David?
I am. And listen, this is big boy football. I mean, feelings and all that, you got to put them aside. In Florida's case, they haven't had a quarterback that they've been enamored with since 2009, and whoever it's going to be. Now, I would try to play the freshman as much as possible. Right?
Well, they can only play 4 games anyway because there's only 4 left. If they play a bowl game, and they will. So.
Well, but he's played. How many has he played in already this year?
Well, he's played in 2. He's played in 2.
Yeah. So are you trying to save a year of eligibility?
Yeah.
I wouldn't.
Well, I mean, if you only got two, look. Okay, so there are a lot of scenarios in the math you could play. You say, let's give it to Felipe on a short leash and bring Trask in. Let's give Trask, the starting job. Let's go.
What I would do.
Well, then take Jones and start him the next two games. I mean, you could do that too.
What I would do is, I would start Trask against South Carolina.
Okay.
But you know why. One, I was not a Franks guy because while his ceiling was higher than Trask, I thought his floor was a lot lower.
Yeah.
Like what we saw on Saturday. To me, that type of performance wouldn't happen with Kyle Trask. Now, Kyle Trask can't make that throw that Felipe made down the seam against Georgia.
Right.
I mean, that's an NFL throw.
Yeah.
I mean, that's a great throw. And Trask can't make that throw. But, I thought Trask was a 6. On a scale of 1 to 10, he would show up every week and give you about a 5.5 or a 6. And I thought that Dan could work around that.
And that's given that the defense is going to be playing well, the special teams is going to be playing well, the offensive line was developing, and none of that has happened. Now it's a whole different situation, isn't it?
Well, once again, we got to go back to what we thought of this team and this program at the beginning of the year. We thought it was a major work in progress. We thought they had to get their numbers back up, that there was depth that they still lacked at certain positions. And now they'd had a great start to the season. A little bit of a reality check here lately. And now you take a look at some positions and you realize, well, we still need upgrades at not just quarterback, but at a lot of other places. And we need depth virtually everywhere. We're still 2 good recruiting classes away from getting back to where it is we want to get to. And I hope everybody keeps that in mind. I thought 8-4 would be a really solid year this year.
Yes, you did.
Really solid year. Now, you beat LSU and you beat Mississippi State, and you don't expect to lose at home to Missouri. So now everybody's really
or Kentucky. Yeah.
Correct. However, if we went back and I said, hey, you're 6-3 hosting South Carolina, Gator fan. Would you take it? I think a majority of Gator fans would have, because they would think, well, then we're going to go no worse than 8-4, probably 9-3, win a bowl game. Hey, 10-win season. Yeah, I'll take that first year under Dan Mullen.
Yeah.
So I hope we keep it all in perspective. But, buddy, to me, now and 3 months ago and 6 months ago, the most important thing for this program is who will the quarterback be next year?
Yeah.
And I think Dan has to make every single decision just about the rest of the way, focusing on that one goal. Recruiting will take care of the rest.
All right, fair enough. Final thought in our segment here with David Moulton here on the Center State Bank Tuesday. This will take a minute to answer, so I'll step out of the way. But of all the things that happened last weekend and what is considered a fall from grace, and Humpty Dumpty, fell into a million pieces, and all the metaphors you want to use, all the things that happened, the special teams, not playing well, the offensive defensive lines not playing well, Georgia and Missouri having an answer for the blitzes of Todd Grantham's defense. Apparently the films have been, they've caught up to the defense. All the things that happened, the secondary playing really badly, although granted they were put out there on the island. All those things that happened, and then Mullen coming back in and saying that he didn't think Franks was ready, and then saying to the fans, you have to sell the stadium out first before you have a championship. Which of those things to you is the most disturbing, and why?
Buddy, I am never, ever, ever, ever a fan of chastising the customers. Never. I don't even like it when Nick Saban has been doing it. Gotta be honest. I'm just not. And there's a lot of reasons why people may come or may not come to a game. A lot of reasons. It's a lot of time. It's quite a hefty expense, particularly to stay over. There's a lot of issues involved here. I don't think head coaches should be chastising the fans, period, but especially not until you win something. Dan's done just about everything right, was not a fan of him calling out the fans, particularly after a stinker of an effort. Now, if they had gone out and done to Missouri what Missouri did to them, maybe you can step to the podium and go, guys, we're going to have a double-digit win season here. I was a little disappointed to see some empty seats. Have we done something wrong? I mean, we took Georgia to the fourth quarter. I think we're doing pretty well. You won 4 games last year. And what more do you want? I hope the rest of the way that the place is full, because I think that this team deserves it. And then to leave it at that. But I thought Dan went a little far, and I definitely don't think you should step over the line when you throw a clunker on the board.
Well, I'll leave it with this, and you're a fan of Mullen, and so am I, and we both agree he was the right guy. So in no way are we saying that he's not the right person, but a person who had been in the program in the past, very close in the program to the program back in the day, say 20 years ago, whatever, said that they knew people who came to the games back then, back in the 90s, and couldn't buy a ticket, and they were amazed at the passion of the fans, and that didn't, they were winning, but they came before they were winning. And when they started winning more, they came even more and sold the place out for a long period of time. And disappointing that Mullen would make a remark like that, like, you got to fill the stadium before we can win a championship. However he meant that. Maybe he didn't mean it that way, but it came off that way. So I think I'm with you. It's a dangerous ground to be on right there for a coach. And the final thought is, look, student bodies are changing. It's not the same kind of audience it used to be. Soccer is a lot more popular to many of them. They're from all over the world. They're not necessarily big fans of football like David and Buddy are, and it's going to take a re-education process. So there's a lot going on there, not just at Florida, but all over college campuses in America. So the dynamics of this thing are bigger than one game and one situation. It's going to be really interesting to see how this plays out. We'll pick up this topic again next time, David, when we have more time. I always enjoy talking ball with you. David Moulton, Miller and Moulton. Where is the crew going this weekend? CBS?
We're actually going to Tuscaloosa.
Tuscaloosa, okay.
Doing Mississippi State and Alabama.
Okay, well.
And I don't think our paths are going to cross with the Gators.
Probably not. And by the way, enjoy the Dreamland barbecue. And I hope we talk to you next week about that if we can do this again, David.
That'd be great.
David Moulton, he's from CBS, from Fox. I'm just going to stop right there. David Moulton, great to have you on, my friend.
Take care, buddy.
Okay, David Moulton. Hope we didn't have a little hit there on the internet, but you lost part of that. I think you're all still live. If there's a problem, let me know. Some of you just tuning the show in. We started it early tonight, and we put out a notice that we were going to do that because of the basketball game, and we want to try to get Franz on just before the basketball game starts. And then while the game is going on, although we can't air it, get his comments on what he sees, because I quite frankly have only seen a clip from the Florida Southern game, opening game. I don't really know what they did or who the starters are. I heard about the new freshman point guard. I know about some of the guys that played last year. So we'll see. Take a look at that. Meanwhile, let's do this. Let's tell you about All Florida Sportswear. All Florida Sportswear. All Gators know about allfloridasportswear.com. You've seen some of the T-shirts and some of the golf shirts they've made for us. Tony does a great job. If you want something special, log on and check it out. Some of the hats, some of the shirts. Still some of those Circle GNK shirts available if you want those. And Tim Tebow Memorial shirts. We'll have more to talk about later in the week. I think I'll wear orange this week. Anybody know what the color is? Is it orange? I don't know. We'll see. Let me tell you also about Renstar Medical Research. And I have some information tonight on the players, the final 8 players who are going to be introduced to the quarterback club tomorrow night. It's down to 8. The 8th player was named today. I'll just tell you, he was a young man from the Villages, started school, and we'll tell you more about that tomorrow night. But we have our player of the week, our Renstar Star of the Week, every week, and we'll have that information tomorrow. So congratulations to all 8 who will be nominated for the Scott Brantley Trophy. The field will be narrowed to 3, and then the finalists will be named, and then we'll have the celebration with a big name coming to town, and we'll have that over at the facility called the Riley Arts Center. If you haven't been there, try it out. And that'll be in April. So I'll tell you more about that. Congratulations. Also, thank you to Renstar, excuse me, a company that cares about the community in lots of ways, not the least of which is the clinical research they do there. They have a first-class Renstar Medical Research facility, superior to most places you've been around. I've been there. It's a high-quality, patient-centered research facility, and it brings cutting-edge technology for clinical trials. And in our area, you know all about some of the common diseases and problems we have here. Naturally, Alzheimer's is a big one. Also, psoriasis, osteoarthritis, migraine headaches. You ever had one? Fibromyalgia, etc. So we're looking for cures and things to treat those. And some of the data they get at Renstar goes up to their partners in the biomedical companies and pharmaceutical companies, and to go in to help formulate some kind of medications they can have to be able to get some relief from these things, which, as we know, are very, very important today for your lifestyle. So if you want to know about what they do, call Renstar Medical Research in Ocala, 352-629-5800. The people down there, Mary Brantley is the first-class wife of Scott Brantley, I might add. Joe Sorrentino, his son Joey was a Gator, played for Urban Meyer. All community members, and they do a terrific job downtown. So go by and check them out, or go online to Renstar Medical Research and find out what they mean when they say Renstar Medical Research, seeking tomorrow's answers to the health questions of today. And finally, another one of my favorite places. I could use some of these about right now. There it is. Where else but Mark's Steakhouse? Mark's Prime Steakhouse and Seafood. The beef on the right is an actual picture of a dish that they serve there. Top-notch beef, fresh seafood. On the left, you've got shrimp scampi, which looks delicious. And they do try to create this really unique dining experience for you with this cuisine that they have there. Those are just 2 of the items on the menu. You can go to marksprimesteakhouse.com and look at some of the others. Meanwhile, it's their goal to have fresh vegetables, premium wines, great service to give you the best experience you can have in one of the best restaurants in Florida. Check them out online, Mark's Prime Steakhouse and Seafood. And they have 2 locations. Ocala is, you can call 352-402-0097 if you'd like to make a reservation, or Gainesville, 352-336-0077. And they have complimentary valet parking, which is always nice when the weather is bad. All right, Notre Dame. Sometimes just the mere mention of the name makes fans, Southern football fans, want to upchuck. Okay? That's just how it is. I mean, I understand that. You love to hate Notre Dame. But they're back. Notre Dame is back, and they got a really good team, and they're quite a success story, as a matter of fact, right now, because they've got their quarterback in place. They changed quarterbacks. They've replaced 3 linemen. They're winning games against good teams, including Michigan, I might add. So I caught up with John Finneran, my good friend from South Bend, who covers Notre Dame for the AP. We'll have this interview. We might not run all of it, and then we'll have Franz Beard live as we get ready for some basketball. All right, out to the Renstar split screen and talk to our old friend John Finneran, who's dressed up in Notre Dame colors. Why? Because he's a graduate. He covers the Notre Dame Fighting Irish for the Associated Press in South Bend. He joins us on the program now. Good to hear you, see you, John, on Buddy Martin Show. And, this has been quite a ride for you, and the Irish now looking like they're going to be one of the 4 playoff teams.
Yeah, they should be, if they can get through their next 3 games with Florida starting this Saturday with Florida State coming into Notre Dame. Then they play Syracuse at Yankee Stadium. And then they end the regular season in Los Angeles against USC. So if they can go through those 3 games and stay undefeated, I would imagine the college football playoff ranking people will have a difficult time explaining to everybody why Notre Dame's not one of the top 4 teams.
Syracuse might be the toughest of those 3, you would think. And as you point out, the game is at Yankee Stadium. And you were telling me they have a special attire, which you're not totally thrilled about.
Well, Notre Dame would normally have 7 home games. There's a lot of schools play 7 home games because of the money, and what Notre Dame has chosen to do is take a 7th home game and take it on the road to some place where their alumni can around the country can come and see. So they've played what's called the Shamrock Series in places like San Antonio. I think they've been to, I think they've been to Washington, D.C. I might be right. I think they played one of the games in Chicago at Soldier Field. But this year they're going to Yankee Stadium. There's a lot of history, of course, with Notre Dame and playing in Yankee Stadium, particularly against Army. Back in the day, and
the 4 Horsemen, right?
4 Horsemen in 1924, and so they're going to go to the Yankee Stadium, and in doing so, these games always have a theme. When they've played Army in San Antonio, they kind of wore khaki-colored uniforms because one of the sayings on the Basilica at Notre Dame is "God, Country, Notre Dame." So they played khaki uniforms in honor of Army, and so now they're playing at Yankee Stadium. And why not wear pinstripes?
Pinstripe pants, huh?
Pinstripe pants with a blue jersey top. And the thing that I don't like is that they're going to wear a blue helmet with a circle on it with ND, and inside the circle are pinstripes.
What? You mean no gold helmet?
No gold helmet.
Heresy.
When you think of Notre Dame, you think of the Golden Dome, and Notre Dame has worn gold helmets for as long as I can remember. At least when Ara Parseghian went in there in 1964. Yeah. The helmets have rarely changed. And it is the Golden Dome school. Yeah. So they should be wearing gold helmets.
All right, John Fenner of the AP. John, you have context here because you covered the Florida Gators for a lot of years with the Charlotte Sun and for the Gator Country. And you know the program here well. You saw it during its heyday. I'm sure you've been reading about it. But the context of Notre Dame and Florida, a lot has come up recently about the crowds being off at Florida. And it seems to be something it's endemic to college football in general, but Florida's taking it a little more personal. Dan Mullen talking about it the other day, saying Florida needs to get people in the stadium, and you can't have a championship season until you do. Some would say that's a chicken and the egg. But nonetheless, the reason I ask you is for comparison now to what you saw during the heyday. What's it like at Notre Dame now in a year when the Fighting Irish are back and Brian Kelly's got them low likelihood to Final Four?
Buddy, the last time Notre Dame Stadium did not sell out, I was a senior there. That was 1973, the year that they beat Alabama for the national championship for Ara Parseghian. And the reason they didn't sell out was because they moved the game against Air Force from the Saturday before Thanksgiving to Thanksgiving Day.
Mm. All right, there you have it, the scenario for Notre Dame. I thought you'd give you a little flavor of that just to let you know what's going on out there. We'll look at some of these teams in the near future. Notre Dame looks like, unless they stub their toe, they got Florida State this Saturday. They got Syracuse and USC. The toughest one's going to be Syracuse, probably. The one that you talked about being played in Yankee Stadium. So that's what's happening there. All right, getting close to a little basketball. I'm going to save this name for Franz Beard. I don't know who has it, but to me, he'll always be Mr. College Basketball. He's definitely one of the most knowledgeable guys on basketball. He spends a lot of time talking to coaches and people and knows the game. He coached the game at the AAU level at one time, and he'll be doing some special stuff for us in basketball this year. As a matter of fact, I understand we may be going to the Villages to talk to Trey Mann. Franz and I both will be going there soon, the new signee by University of Florida. So Franz will join us in just a moment. We'll get his take on tonight's game. What can we expect? What's Florida State got? What kind of talent do they have up there? And here he is right now as we speak. As soon as he comes up on the screen, that would be our own Mr. College Basketball, Sir Francis Beard, also a.k.a. the Iron Duke. What's up, Francis? How are you, buddy?
I am good. It's a good time of the year. Basketball's beginning. Football coming down to the crunch time where we're going to find out who's going to be in the Final Four. A lot of fun things happening.
Yes, and unfortunately, not as much in Gainesville as we've had. Been a rough couple of weeks. We talked about it some on last night, and we will talk about it a little bit tonight. We also discussed this with David Moulton earlier. I'll just throw this out there, and then let's switch to basketball. And you tell me when they get ready to tip it off, which I think is pretty soon, if it's on time. I made this point tonight to David, and I think it's one of those things that's kind of it's finally hit me that if you look at the situation with teams that are winning right now, there's no hesitation whatsoever to change quarterbacks. It seems to me we used to know a coach like that. And I know that Dan Mullen has had great success being consistent with his quarterbacks, and I know he thought he could actually retrieve and rehabilitate Felipe, but now I think that's becoming obvious he may not get that done. And even if he does, how long do we have? It isn't like it used to be in the old days, France, where you had 5 years to win. You got to start producing pretty quick in a job today. And he has produced. He's done a great job. And you and I both, and guys like Bolton, we all think he's the right guy for the job. We probably got a little bit too carried away in our praise and got caught up in the emotion of it. This team didn't show up at all, as we said last night, it hasn't showed up since the goal line stand against Georgia. And now the quarterback play has put pressure everywhere else. It's like a stress test with Banks. The stress test is really hurting this football team, and it goes all the way around from the defense on down. Because Felipe can't bring a team back when you're down by 2 touchdowns, or most likely can't. I won't say he can't. So here we go. And I'm saying that they make their decision. If it's Trask, it's Trask. If they got to play Emory Jones, they play him. And not only that, they have to get aggressive about looking around to see if any free agent quarterbacks are available. What do you think about that?
I think he's going to stay with the guys he's bringing in. Kelly Bryant can certainly run the football, but I think Kelly Bryant gives you you gain the running quarterback, but you lose the arms that you got in Trask and Felipe. I don't think that is a great fit. I mean, I just don't. I think, whereas he's probably a lot better, where I know he's a lot better on the option, I can't see this guy winning SEC football with his arm. And you've got to have a guy that can throw the football in the Southeastern Conference. The run defenses are so good that if you don't have a guy that can throw the football, you're not going to win. I like Emory Jones. I think that Dan has made a decision to go with what he had and do the red shirt Emory Jones. I think I don't think that the fact he hasn't played Emory Jones has as much to do with ability as it does with he wants him more physical and stronger. I think this is a kid that he wants to be a 220-pound kid that can run it, throw it, etc. like that. And I think that his determination in keeping Emory and just playing him, he's going to play him in 4 ball games. I think that has everything to do with the fact that he's looking for Emory to get a year with Nick Savage, to get him to where he is physically prepared to take that job. Jalen Jones is another one. I think is a tremendous talent, and I think those are the guys he's going to go with next year. I don't think he's going to hesitate to go with those guys next year, unless Kyle Trask shows him something in these next 3 ball games. Kyle Trask could, I think, maybe show him something. If not, Kyle Trask won't be here next year, and I darn sure don't believe Felipe will be here next year either. I think we'll be at 2 quarterbacks, and you'll have to get another one somehow, either grad transfer, or something.
Somebody told me tonight they think maybe Jake Fromm might be the man out in Georgia. How about that? But what happens if Justin Field or Jake Fromm become available? Look, here's the difference. There's 2 different questions. One is what is the solution short term right now by who to start? And without doubt, Kyle Trask deserves a chance, no question. But then there's a question of the red shirt for Emory Jones, which you have to deal with. Then there's the incoming guy, Jalen Jones. You don't want to lose him. But having said all that, you still have to think about recruiting. You're going to go get the best quarterback you can get, as they did when they got Tim Tebow, whatever. And now if you see the way the game has changed, friends, recruiting is no longer just inviting kids in and get them to sign on National Signing Day. Recruiting is taking a look at what's out there in terms of the free agents, quote unquote, the guys who can transfer. And they're going to be in the market every year now. The question is whether what they got is better than what you got. I'm not saying that Kelly Bryant is the guy. He's only got 1 year of eligibility left. But, I mean, you take a look at everybody that you think can help your football team the same way you do when you're recruiting. You want to get the best person possible. Now, look, I know I've changed on this a little bit, but I believe if you look at the teams, I've said this many times, every team in the playoffs this year, if Michigan gets here, will have made a quarterback change since last year. There's something to that, isn't there?
Well, you've got to go with a guy that you know can get there, can get the job done. Michigan is a better football team because they got Shea Patterson from Ole Miss, a guy who had started the last couple ball games the year before and then started all last year until he got hurt. So they got an experienced quarterback in. But I think Michigan's situation was I don't think they had anything on campus that could compete at the level they need to compete with. I think Alabama had Tua, and Tua certainly was already on campus and ready to compete. And they had the perfect backup because, I mean, how can you complain when you got a guy like Jalen Hurts who's been to the national championship game 2 straight years? Clemson's situation, I think Clemson looked at what happened to them last year, and they realized that if they did not have a quarterback who could fling it down the field and pick up big plays in the passing game, that they could not win a national championship. Now they got Trevor Lawrence, who certainly can throw it downfield, and that makes them a legitimate threat. You look at the teams that we're looking at. Ian Book there at Notre Dame, he can throw it down the field. Tua certainly can throw it down the field. Oklahoma's still in the running. Kyler Murray can throw it down the field. Clemson, Trevor Lawrence can throw it down the field. All the teams that we think are really in the hunt for the playoff have guys that can make that 25 to 30-yard throw. Yeah. And you've got to have a guy that can do that and stretch that field. And right now, That's what the problem is with Florida. Florida ranks 111th nationally in plays of 20 yards or more in the passing game.
All right, I'm gonna tell you some things. You tell me, check it off right or wrong. Then I'll tell you a little bit about it. Game's underway right now. Just started.
Yes, it is.
We'll keep you up to date on that in just a minute. Here are the things that, let's look at Frank's. And I'm not crucifying the young man, okay? That was a 3 by Florida. I don't know who made it. I'm not able to watch it and do this show. But we know the issues at quarterback are the young man can't seem to get any consistency to his game. He's not a good field manager. He has a pretty good arm and he runs okay, but he's inconsistent in the way he throws the ball and he stares his receivers down, and they're not getting the ball in the hands of their playmakers. They just got to get it. I mean, and their top receivers only got 19 or 20. How many's Jefferson got? Maybe he's got more now.
I think he's got 19.
I mean, at this level, this time of year, the guy will have 35.
Well, he's open enough. He's so open all the time that he should.
Right.
And here's where the problem is Felipe has missed. You look in these last 2 ball games, wide open guys streaking down the field, wide open. All you got to do is lay it up there, let them run under it, and yet you got a quarterback that throws the ball, 20 yards too far.
Yeah.
You can't have that. I mean, I don't like to be sound like I'm down on a kid, because we got to remember these are 19, 20-year-old kids.
Right.
But I think, the name of the game is you got to get out there and win, and you got to play the guy that can win the game for you. And quite frankly, I don't see Felipe as a guy that can win games for you at an SEC level. I just don't see it. Let me put it this way. Consistently win games at an SEC level. He can win games occasionally. And if you have just the right game plan for him and he can avoid making mistakes, he can win a game like LSU. But you get in these ball games where a quarterback, the game plan will only take you so far, and at some point in time, the quarterback has to step it up and make a play and be the difference maker. And I don't see that Felipe has that in him.
Yeah. All right, Franz, let's get past this and talk about this basketball team. Playing in Tallahassee against this FSU team. They're up 3-2 with 17, just under 18 minutes to go. Tell me about this Gator basketball team.
Well, they've got a freshman point guard who is going to be really, really good, and people need to be a little bit patient with him, Andrew Nimbard. He is a kid that is going to make some spectacular plays, especially in passing the ball to open people. He's going to have some turnovers probably early on. I don't think he's accustomed to the physicality that he's going to face, or even tonight. FSU is one of the most physical teams in the entire country. I mean, they're big, they're strong, and they are really, really good. They play great defense. They always do under Leonard Hamilton. So this is the kind of game that you really wish the Gators had played maybe 3 or 4 ball games before they got to play this one, because by then your freshmen have gotten used to getting banged around like they didn't get banged around in high school and so forth like that. And your veterans have had a chance to kind of work the kinks of an off season out. But it is what it is. You're starting the game against a really good FSU team on the road, and they're going to have to play through it. But it's a tough November. They're going down to the battle for Atlantis, and if you look at who they're going to play down there, I mean, they could be playing Tennessee which a lot of people think is a Final Four team. They could be playing Tennessee in that ball game if they make it to the championship round. They could be playing Wisconsin. They could be playing Virginia, which a lot of people have as a 3 or 4 team in the nation already. So they've got a lot of growing up they're going to have to do. It's, I think, as tough a pre-conference schedule as we've seen a Florida team play. Probably since the 2007 Gators, when they had a preseason that included Kansas and they included Ohio State before they got to conference play, et cetera, like that.
Yep.
So, gonna be interesting to see.
Expecting a big year out of Hudson, obviously.
Yeah, got to have a big year out of him. Kevon Allen has got to figure out how to shoot the ball consistently.
Boy,
again.
oh boy, does he streaky. He is really streaky.
Last year he had a bad shooting year. And I think last year he had a bad shooting year because he had to play a lot of point guard. He was the backup point guard to Chi-Chi for most of the year last year. And I think that threw him off. I think he's a guy that really has to play on the wing, and he's a guy that he's got to get his feet set so that he can shoot the ball.
Yeah.
I'm for people who don't follow basketball, a lot of great shooters have to have their feet set before they get the ball. They're not the kind of guys that can really improvise their shot, etc. So this year, Nimbard's going to play the point. Mike Okaro, who played a lot last year, is going to also play the point. So I think that Kevon is only going to be like an emergency point guard this year. I'll tell you a guy that to watch, and that is the Locke kid coming off the bench. He is a gifted 3-point shooter. I think they've got more shooters this year than they've ever had here, maybe ever at any point in time. And that includes when they had the Lawrence brothers back when Norm Sloan was the coach here. And that was those guys were great shooters.
They need them, because I can remember even the last year Billy was there, sometimes the offense would get in a deep freeze. They couldn't score for stretches of 6-7 minutes. Yeah, you just can't. You got to be able to score today's game. I mean, you just got to be able to do that. But all right, so wrapping it up, Francis. FSU took the lead 7-6 with 14:50 to go.
Yeah, Florida's turning the ball over here, and you just can't do that.
It always seems like the same FSU scenario. They get physical, and Florida gets worn out, and they just don't have that many big bodies to put in there, as you say. They're a physical team, and it seems like that's what it ends up with every year. But all right, so final thoughts. I'll let you go. You're starting Trask on Saturday?
I like to think that that's what it's going to be. The question, if he starts Felipe Franks, it's because I think it will be because Dan realizes that Franks may have more of the team behind him. These guys have been with him. He's kind of, as much as we lament leadership, et cetera, like that, he may be the best leader. If that's the best, sometimes you got to dance. What's Dan Jenkins' old line?
Yeah.
Dance with what brung you.
Yeah, dance with the one that brung you. Yeah.
And if he starts Franks will be on a very short leash, and Trask will play in this ballgame.
Yeah, no
but
question.
I still think that he's going to go with Trask.
If he starts Trask, you can't put Franks back in. That's the problem.
He can.
Well,
he can.
Maybe if Trask stinks it up. I mean, yeah.
If Franks can't, if Trask can't get it done, and maybe Dan looks at it like this, like maybe what Felipe needs is a wake-up call.
Maybe how about a bunch of Wildcat?
Yeah. Well, Kadarius Toney, I think we'll see a lot of Kadarius Toney in the ball game, and I think what he'll do is revert to something he did when back in 2005, and they did it again in I mean, they did it in 2006. Excuse me. Everybody knew that Chris Leak wasn't going to run the football except in dire emergency.
Yeah.
And when they needed to run the football and needed a running play, they put in Tebow and they let him throw just enough to where he was a threat. And I kind of think that maybe they'll, they've already shown that Kadarius Toney can throw the football, so maybe that's what the secret ingredient will be. Is start fresh and play Toney as
maybe it will be
the Tim Tebow.
Whatever works. Francis, thanks a lot, buddy. Appreciate it. All right, talk to you Friday. All right.
Yes.
Franz Beard, the Iron Duke, also our Mr. College Basketball. I'm going to do this before I say goodnight, because I told the gentleman I would. Jim Haley, who passed this past week, was a very important figure in sports in the community. I want to pay him proper respect. And last night I had an interview with Richard Burton, who's a local guy who's done also a book on high school football playoffs in Florida, and I had to cut that short on. And I promised him I'd play that again tonight, just to close out last couple of minutes, and we'll go back to the basketball game. Here's Richard Burton talking about Jim Haley and the Kingdom of the Sun tournament, which drew teams from all over the country to come play at Vanguard High School, and of course Jim passing away last week. And here's that interview.
Just exploded. I mean, such great players. I mean, anybody who was anyone, I mean, in the SEC type players, I mean, ACC standouts. I mean, you got Christian Leitner's team going 0-2 in high school. Actually 1-2. I believe they beat Polack, but he had to hit a half-court shot to win it. And, great teams. I mean, Dwight Howard's team went 0-2 in the Kingdom, and all kind of players who, just tremendous stars every year. And he did it on a shoestring budget.
Yes.
I mean, he put his own money in a lot of times. I mean, I know, I don't think his wife probably at the time was very happy that, a little bit of extra cash is going here to the Kingdom, but, hey, he wanted to get it done, and everybody just loved the guy. I mean, he was just such an ambassador for the game and did so much good for so many people.
Yeah.
I mean, and when they, I talked to Bob Murphy, who is the executive director of the Kingdom, and he told me that he thinks the tentatively, I'm just share it with you, in your audience, that they're going to have the memorial format. It's tentative, but it's pretty much a go on November 14th at Vanguard High. They don't have a time or anything, and that's going to be a great thing because he's got guys from all over the country who will want to attend.
Yeah, for sure.
I mean, but I'm thinking, man, I said, you guys probably ought to get Booster Stadium. It's going to be that.
Yeah, it's going to be gigantic. Well, I wish we had more time to get into that tonight. We'll do it again. I think there's going to be many other stories written about Jim Haley. He was how old was Jim? He was he?
Jim was 74.
74. He passed somewhat unexpectedly last week. A lot of people were shocked, and the momentum, the posts are still coming on some of those links all over the country from people who admired and loved Jim Haley. And R.I.P. to one of the great guys and one of the great legends of the sport, and a guy I know you love deeply, as did so many others. And I noticed one other thing you wrote a story about. A record book you were going through one time, and that a little piece of paper fell out, and it was Jim Haley's record against his crosstown rival Forrest, and I believe you said that it showed he'd beaten him 75 times. Is that right?
56.
56. Yeah, 50. Yeah, 56. Yeah.
It probably felt like 75 to them.
Yeah. 56 times. That's right. Could be 75. They wouldn't play that long, but nonetheless. But anyway, well done on all the stuff. Listen, I got to get to you on this book real quick, and we'll have you back and talk about it. Your book is out. I love the name, Seeds of Greatness. It's about the high school playoffs in Florida, and I'm very proud of you for doing that because I campaigned tirelessly for about 5 years for Florida to get a playoff. Wrote many columns about it in your old paper, the Star Banner, and wanted to see them have a playoff, and was blessed to be able to cover the 1963 Wildwood Wildcats in the playoff. Anyway, but job well done. I know it's a beautiful book.
Thank you.
You'll have copies of it at the Ocala Quarterback Club on Wednesday night, where you'll be there. And just give us a synopsis of the book. It's on sale now. It's not cheap, but it's worth every penny. And tell us about the book and what you've accomplished and where people can get it.
Basically, I've got a recap of every playoff game, all 4,163.
We're talking football now for people who don't know. We switched sports on you. We're talking about football playoffs. Go ahead.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and then it goes into kind of talks a little bit about the championships and the runners up, a little bit of their statistics. I put together a tournament record book, playoff game record book. I have every state poll going into the playoffs. I have every win over a number one ranked team, kind of listed that. I got all the district tiebreakers and just everything. And I wanted it to be, something that people could look back on year after year. And all that's kind of, and you mentioned the Wildwood Championship. I mean, you guys' coverage in 16, that season was better than by far what they have nowadays. I mean, you guys had Hall of Famers like, yourself and Van McKenzie and Jim Huber covering it. But, I was like, wow. I mean, honestly, finding the information in that period of time was easier than it is now and putting stuff together. But yeah, but it's got everything you could want to know about the playoffs. I got, stats that, kind of like judge which team is better and stuff like that. It started at 2,300 pages. We had to chop it to 700.
Wow, chopped it to 700. Wow. 7 years?
7.5 times.
Right?
7 years.
Yeah.
7 years to finish it.
My goodness. Well, congratulations. I'm gonna buy my autographed copy on Wednesday night when you come to Quarterback Club. Tell folks where they can get theirs.
They can go to store.bookbaby.com and then they Google or type into the search bar Seeds of Greatness and it'll pop up. And, it's going to be available on Amazon and Barnes and Noble, but I believe that's in the next day or so. But right now it's officially only available right now on BookBaby.
So if for some reason people hear this and want to know, they can PM me and I'll give you the information as well. Hey, well done on the book, Richard. See you Wednesday night. And so sorry about your loss of your good friend, Jim Haley, R.I.P.
Thanks, buddy. And thanks for all you do for sports and everyone in this area, in journalism and in general. I really appreciate all you've done for me. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Richard Burton. Okay, Richard Burton on his book coming out. All right, we're going to let you go now. I want to get that in before the night was over. And thanks for watching. Tomorrow night will be the regular time. We'll have Tony Barnhart, Mr. College Football, in town. We'll have that show along with our good friend Edgar Thompson, the Sentinel, tomorrow night. So hope you'll join us for that. And let's see if we're going to be able to get this to work tonight. Our close for the show. Hopefully. Yeah, let's see. If not, I can sing us out. Either way. Yeah, it's been quite a day and quite a week, and I'm looking forward to seeing if, in fact, we're going to be able to resolve the issue of the quarterbacks maybe this weekend. Thanks.